Hello again, YouTube. I'm going to talk to you today about this film here, Hamburger Hill, which in my opinion is one of the best it's the best Vietnam film I've ever seen, if not one of the best war films I've ever had the pleasure to watch. Okay, I'll read you what it says on the back, and then I'll talk to you a bit about the film. It says here, the men of Bravo Company are facing a battle days uphill, up Hamburger Hill. 14 war-weary soldiers are battling for a mud-covered mound of earth, so named because it chews up soldiers like chopped meat. They are fighting for their country, their fellow soldiers, and their lives. War is hell, but this is worse. Hamburger Hill tells it the way that it was, the way it really was. It's raw, gritty, totally unrelenting, dramatic depiction of one of the fiercest battles of America's bloodiest war. This happened. Hamburger Hill, war at its worst, men at their best. This stars a whole bunch of people for starters, which is a great selling point. It's got a very young Don Cheadle in it. It's got it's got, like I say, like a whole bunch of people starring in it that you'll recognise. Don Cheadle, Dylan McDermott. As I said, it's an amazing film. Definitely 10 out of 10. I don't know how to really put it into words. It should have got a lot of awards. It didn't. My personal belief on this one is that the Oscars is and a lot of these award systems, ceremony things are very politically based, in my opinion, and I don't think the Nam War was very much fashionable at that time. It got held up in production, and it was made the same year, 1985, as Platoon, and yet Platoon got all the awards partly because Hamburger Hill got held up in post-production, and that led to it missing the deadline for the Oscars and other award ceremonies. So by the time the next year came round, it was kind of, oh, we've already done this, we've already celebrated this. But it's one of the most moving films which deals with this subject that I've seen, and not just war, but the Vietnam War and the effects that the Vietnam War had on the American people, specifically, as I say, told from the side of the soldiers that served in Vietnam. I can't remember the number of the Vietnam Hamburger Hill, but it was Hill number. But as the film says, this is just one hill of many that were fought over by during the Vietnam War. There is a bond that you see formed during the course of the film. These men, they look out for each other, they care for each other, and they stick up for each other even amongst themselves. I've heard there's a story in one of the extras for the DVD that I've got that says about how when they gave a special preview of the film, and one of the special previews, a woman walked up to the people that were showing this film and introduced herself, and she said to them about how she wanted to thank them for making the film because her husband was a Vietnam veteran, and or is a Vietnam veteran, and he'd been to this screening and was in tears afterwards, and he was in tears because they got it so right. They were so close, and she wanted to thank them because she, for the first time, she could understand where he was, what he'd been through to a certain degree, because he never talked about it to her, because most people that have been through that kind of thing don't generally talk about it. Not to people that haven't been there, I suppose, is what the phrase I mean. So yeah, it's also got what has to be one of the longest battle sequences in the film. I mean, the battle sequence takes up about 2/3 of the film at least. But the reason it's a good film, part of the reason it's a good film is because they cut up the battle sequence in the film with these situations where these men are sitting around and they're talking and they're just being themselves, I suppose. And some of the conversations are sadly weird, tragic things to watch. There's one conversation where one of the sergeants is asked why he went back to Vietnam, which wasn't an uncommon thing to do. There were men that did 2, 3, 4 tours in Nam. And his answer is basically to tell them about how he got back to the world, he didn't recognise it, and how, he gets home and he's, there's a hairhead in the toilet, as he calls it, referring to his hippie, and how he goes to the bar, the local bar, and one of the bar flies is, one of the guys that drinks at the bar is talking about how he gets regular phone calls saying about how these hippies are glad that his son died in Vietnam. And that makes it moving, and to see the conditions that these men were fighting in, and it wasn't the first time that this hill got taken in Vietnam. It wasn't the last time, and it's a subject that intrigues me, but I have lots, as I said in my intro video, I have lots of interests, so I don't know as much about it as I'd like to, but there is something about this film. To me, it's better than Platoon. It's better than Full Metal Jacket. It's one of these films that you just have to watch if you get the chance. Definitely 10 out of 10. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I will talk to you guys another time. Have a good evening, and bye for now.